cooking with gas. There we go. All righty. Good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock, and it's time to call the meeting to order. I want to welcome all of those who are present and all the items of consent. I'd like to move number 4, the FY25 Budget Amendment number 4 and Capital Reserve Amendment 21. I'd like to let you know where I'm going to place it at first. I'm going to place it under New Business as number 5, and then I also like to add a closed session according to the General Statute 143-318, 11A and 3.
So moved.
Thank you so much. We've got a motion on the floor. Any further questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed have the same right. Okay, so now we have 5 items that are on the consent agenda. The first is the approval of the meeting minutes that are from February 6th and 7th Board of Commissioners retreat, the February 24th work session, March 10th regular meeting, and the March 24th Commissioners work session. We have an annexation resolution. The county is petitioning for a voluntary annexation for the property located at 2303 Highway 70 in Beaufort. We have residential solid waste increase fees per our contract, and the consumer price index has increased. Effective April the 1st, residential solid waste will increase by 2.8%. That will be moving your fee from $23.17 to $23.83 a month. That's about 65 cents a month, or $7.80 annually. And the Waterfront Business District will have an increase of 2.8%, and that will start July 1st. Periwinkle has a beer mile run that's scheduled for May 21st. They're submitting an application. This is a fundraiser for the Boys and Girls Club Torch Club. And this will run from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. so that you can probably walk this mile, so you not have to run very, very fast on this one, and there's no alcohol consumed on town property. Then we've got an application for Rock the Dock event, so the Business Association is submitting an application for that event that's going to be held at John Newton Park every Thursday starting May the 1st, running through August the 28th from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. So with those items, can I get a motion to approve the items of consent?
So moved.
Have a motion on the floor. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed have the same right. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to the public hearing of case number 2506 at 625 West Beaufort Road. This is a rezoning from R20 to R8. And can I get a motion to open the floor for public hearing?
I make a move to open the public hearing for case number 25-06, 625 West Beaufort Road zoning R20 to R8.
Appreciate that. Thank you. You've got a motion on the floor. Any further questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. All right. So first we'll hear from staff. Then we also have the applicant present. Very good. And then we'll open the floor to public hearing. So is that clear how the process goes? All right.
Mr. Yarn?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. As Mayor Pro Tem Cooper mentioned earlier, this is case number 2506 for 625 West Beaufort Road. The request is to rezone a single lot from R20 to R8. The applicant is Holland Shed Properties. The existing land uses are 2 dilapidated structures. The total area is .688 acres, which equates to around 29,000 square feet of land area. And our CAMA land use plan has this area identified as suburban residential, which you will see in future slides. Under our staff comments, this is not the first time this request in recent years has been before the Board of Commissioners. In 2011, there was a request to rezone this property as well to commercial, and the neighbors surrounding property owners showed up in opposition of the property going to commercial, and hence, the Board of Commissioners agreed with that, and the property was not rezoned. It stayed at its R20. It's important to know that there are two primary structures on the property which render it non-conforming, is only one primary structure is permitted under the general provisions section of the Unified Development Ordinance. And just so happens that both of these structures are non-conforming as well because they do not meet their side yard setbacks for the structures in the R20 and some other areas. A rezoning would not change the non-conforming status of these structures, and it would allow for the potential subdivision of the lot if rezoned from R20 to R8 to be subdivided. It should be noted as well that the petitioner for this has reached out to our department and is in the process of applying for demolition permits for the two structures that are currently on the property. Included in your staff report this evening is also a comparison of the zoning standards that you would see between the two different zones of R20 and R8, showing the minimum lot size, what the required lot widths are, their front setbacks, side setbacks, rear setbacks, and of course, building height. Next slide that we have has two different maps. One is an adjacent property owner map, which has each of the adjacent owners identified in 1 through 6, and then we have who they represent in a legend on the bottom left, as well as a zoning indicator showing what zonings are around the property, such as R8MH, which is R8 mobile home. There's R20 on either side, and you see some B1 mixed in there as well to the east, and then to the south is property that it is zoned R8. As I was mentioning earlier regarding the CAMA land use plan, we have two different we have a map and then a section taken out of the plan itself. The map shows an area with a small circle on it identifying that this property is recommended as suburban residential, and we have the suburban residential section, as I mentioned earlier, out of the land use plan showing its compatibility. We also have our signs that we have posted, which are required, and we have pictures of the signs that where it was located on the property, as well as some of those dilapidated structures we were mentioning earlier, as well as what we have in other slides. So for those commissioners who are interested in code enforcement, these were actually on our radar and on our list. So it just so happened that it looks like at least two of our items on our list hopefully will be removed fairly soon, which is a positive for all parties. And then our requested actions are for the board to conduct the hearing, the discussion, and then the decision on the rezoning request, as well as the CAMA consistency statement, which was included in your packet by our planning board. And at this time, Mayor, I will be glad to entertain questions.
Okay, thank you, Kyle, for that overview. We're going to start with Commissioner Spiegler.
No questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Oliver.
I have no questions.
Thank you.
John.
Commissioner Cooper.
No, great job there. I'm sure they look bad. Thank you.
Commissioner Gilligan.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopiccolo.
No questions.
Thank you. All right, so we do have the applicant that's here. If you wish to stand up and make a statement, please come up to the podium. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Nicholas Brown.
Nicholas Brown.
So, yeah, Mr. Garner and his staff did a great job putting that together. We really don't have much comment other than entertain any questions you all may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioner Spiegler, do you have any questions for Mr. Brown?
No questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Oliver?
No, but thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cooper?
None.
Thank you. Commissioner Gilligan?
No questions.
Thank you. And Commissioner Lopicolo?
No questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Now I'm going to open the floor to the public. If anyone wishes to make a statement on this particular case. All right, seeing that there is none, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Got a motion on the floor. All in question, any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. So as the board deliberates, Kyle has actually mapped out what it is that he's looking for as a request. So what is the pleasure of the board when it comes down to approving this zoning?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the rezoning for case number 25-06 that is consistent with the current CAMA land use plan.
Okay, that's perfect. So the consistency statement, we already know that's already in there. Okay, very good. All right, so we've got a motion on the floor. Any further questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. We just can't wait to see you put something really nice up there. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Now we're going to move on to old business. We've got Ann Street Park.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So tonight I am bringing forward a recommendation from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. And just out of the gate, I just want to let you know there are 3 members here. So if there's any questions for them, they are prepared to speak about that as well.
Okay.
So Parks and Rec, just a little background. We started investigating a potential project at Ann Street Park in October of 2024. We've had multiple visits from the community. The board has actually went out and met with the neighbors on site as well as in our monthly meetings. We also had a community conversation where we gathered feedback from the public about the event. And a lot of that information is in your packet. So the recommendation that has come forward is after carefully reviewing all of the public input received over the past few months regarding a park at the west end of Ann Street, the Beaufort Parks and Recreation Advisory Board unanimously recommend a park design that includes an observation deck at Ann Street Park. The recommendation is to consider Ann Street Park as a passive pocket park containing open green space, native plantings, a rain garden, and an observation deck. All of the town of Beaufort Park rules would apply to include noise and hours of operations and regulate other regulations. Parks and Rec rules and regulations governing town parks are outlined in Chapter 96 of the Town of Beaufort Code of Ordinances. So there was a lot of concerns that came up during the community conversation that we feel strongly, the Parks and Rec Advisory Board feels strongly that the existing ordinance covers all of those particular items. The park conversations also brought forward the community's desire for additional kayak access locations in Beaufort. So the recommendation tonight is actually multiple recommendations. The board recommends that due to multiple factors mostly involving the current and safety of the Ann Street Park location, that the town consider additional kayak launches at the end of Moore Street on town-owned property on West Beaufort Road and other town-owned street ends such as Fulford Street. So that all of that has come about from the public input. I don't want to go too far into outlining and reading everything that is there for you, but it's pretty detailed, the considerations. And then on the screens in front of you is a concept map. We have used the skills of our staff. Town engineer Sam Bell has created this design, and he's incorporated multiple versions. We had several citizens who also submitted designs, and he was able to incorporate a lot of those elements into this as well. I will stop there and see if there are any questions.
Okay, I'm excited about this project.
Yes.
Commissioner Spiegler, any questions?
Yes, thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Parks and Rec Board. You know, you're very close to my heart. That's where I started, was on the Parks and Rec Board. So thank you for all the work you've done. I think this is very, very exciting. I'm thrilled to see that this is going to be turned into a park. I think it will be great for our community. I'm glad to see there was so much community engagement at the February event, and I apologize I couldn't be there. I was actually out of the country. I think this plan is very detailed, and I think it's great. I will say I've done a little bit of my own research. I've talked to our interim town manager, Charlie Burgess. I was actually talking to one of the local tour operators in town as well. And knowing that a lot of the input at the public engagement did say that there is a need for kayak access. And I do hear what y'all are saying, that there are strong currents there. But I think that depending on the conditions, so like today, I went down there and it was very windy, and unless you're a strong paddler, kayaker like myself, probably wouldn't be a great idea to kayak from any point in Taylor's Creek today. But just from the conversations, I don't think that the safety conditions are any more great at Ann Street than they are at some of the other locations, such as Moore Street, Taylor's Creek. It really depends on what the conditions are that day. And I've talked with Charlie about the need overall for some public education, signage. We don't have any public education at either of the boat ramps for kayakers, boaters. We're going to have increased boat traffic, increased kayakers here over the next 10 to 20 years, and I think we really need to make sure that we're being inclusive of our paddlers and make sure that we have as much water access for them as possible. I think that we should consider putting a floating dock here, because I do think that on some days, the conditions are actually better here than at the proposed Moore Street. I think just depending on which day, which conditions, it could be actually better to launch your kayak at Moore Street. And I think that we have enough community members who live in that area that would really like that access. I do recognize that especially June, July, August, we have very strong southwest winds here. We have a lot of boat traffic. I think that, that we really need the public education, especially in the summertime. That's for everyone, all of our kayakers, because regardless of where you go in Taylor's Creek in the summertime, June, July, August, you have those really, really strong southwest winds. You have a lot of increased boat traffic, so we really need that public education no matter where people are launching from. And I do want people to realize that we have a local tour operator that operates just across the waterway from this entrance. There are many people that do kayak right there. I say that being a kayak guide myself, so I don't take any of this lightly, the public safety, but I do think we need to give our citizens options and make sure we're giving as much public water access as possible. So I'm just going to put that out there and make sure that we are representing the people that do want that access there as well. I think we need to, we have so limited water access for kayakers. I just want to make sure that we have as much as possible. So I don't know if you want to add anything, Charlie, or, okay. All right, thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Oliver?
Again, we're all in favor of the project. A couple quick questions. Has any analysis been looked at in this particular area as far as shoreline stabilization? And if so, what are the recommendations?
So at this time, staff has met with both CAMA and Coastal Fed. Both of them looked at the shoreline. We're looking at phasing the project into phase 1, phase 2, really looking at whatever the piece is, the observation deck and the shoreline is phase 2. There's been talk about living shorelines and versus bulkhead, and there's pluses and minuses to both. It definitely needs a little bit further in depth on that exploration.
And the same question on the study and recommendations that you've done concerning funding for the project.
Yes, there is funding. Actually, staff is working towards, if there's approval tonight, we are working towards, and then the living shoreline will also play into it, but there's a deadline for a CAMA grant. It's actually next week. We are posed and ready to submit for that if approvals and the right directions given from this board tonight.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. Commissioner Cooper?
Yes. Kind of piggyback off of what Commissioner Oliver was stating. The hotel owners, they're also now have just tore down the hotel.
Yes.
And they are now constructing 2 to 3 new residential residents.
That's correct.
And I understand there's possibility of them also doing a bulkhead.
That is not conversations that staff has had, this level of staff has
Yeah, I
had
know you
yet.
haven't. I know you haven't. That's.
I
that's a
believe,
com-
I believe their plans, what I've heard is that they do plan to put a bulkhead if you're looking at the water, it would be the right-hand side of our property, which is their property side. I believe Mr. Burgess had some contact with someone maybe about that, but I'm not 100% sure where that stands.
You have something to
But
elaborate?
that's not something that we're getting more the recommendation of keeping it as it is. Is that correct?
Tonight, what I'm looking for is approval of the park design concept map as presented, or with suggested updates, and then approval for staff to move forward with grants for the completion of the park, and then also approval for staff to develop potential park projects at other locations as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gillikin.
I saw in some of the suggestions, like the suggested updates, that there was irrigation throughout. I'm curious about that because one purpose of the native plantings is to minimize the amount of water that we were using on these sites. Do you have any insight into that or explain the background of that?
Yes. So we are very lucky to have a member of the Garden Club on our board, and they have been very helpful with maintaining Topsail Park, which is a rain garden. And what they have found there very quickly is that our climate sometimes is too dry for those plants to be sustainable. So that was a recommendation to have irrigation and another water source at that location so the plants will thrive.
Okay, and the irrigation, would that be automatic irrigation or irrigation that would be manually triggered? I just want to know that we're not wasting water in an area where native plants are supposed to be doing their job.
That's to be determined. It could
Okay.
be a recommendation for it to be manual.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Piccolo.
I want to thank you for bringing this to us. This is something that for years we've kind of looked at and wanted to see come to fruition, and I'm glad it kind of got moved towards the forefront here. It's great to see so many people involved with this. I see even George Stanziel had done some mock-up drawings on this, and then Ralph Merrill also, and so a lot of community support, and with being at that meeting or that gathering and interacting with everyone, they were great to see all these items added and kind of incorporated into the design. It's really truly a community culmination of everyone's efforts. So no, the design looks great. I'm sure it's going to be a beautiful addition to the downtown. Definitely is concerned for the kayak launching there, and with the West Beaufort Road park coming in, and having that as I think is probably the most efficient or even most accessible access, so that if we do have kayakers, I think that would probably be the best spot for most people to launch from, and to hold kayaks too. It might be a much more easier way to bring kayaks in or have them available for people to access. But no, I appreciate what you've done here. Always concerned about the kind of pavement, and then whether that, I guess we will leave that as is for now, and hopefully in the future maybe look into either pervious pavement or some type of collection system, because of as we all know, the amount of water that can kind of gather there from the storms. I know the residents in that community are always have always come to the town about that, and there's definitely been a lot of concern there. So, but no, I thank you. It's great to see so many different items kind of added to this. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you to the Park and Rec for coming up with the meeting and getting input from our citizens. Like Commissioner Spiegler, that's where I began my humble beginnings in serving the town, was on the Park and Recreation Board. And Laura, you and I served together actually at that time. So we go way back, and I really appreciate all the skill set that has gone into creating this park. And what I would probably say in government, short period of time. I really didn't anticipate this coming to life as quickly as it did, but I'm truly, truly excited. I'm a person who really believes that parks elevate our community, our health, and our well-being. and it's great to have another park and look for as many of them as we possibly can from both sides of the town develop. So we do have some action that needs to be taken tonight. But I did want to have Charlie chime in on a question that Commissioner Cooper had posed about the bulkhead on the opposing property.
Thank you, Mayor. Not trying to be rogue or speaking out of turn or doing anything outside the lines or anything like that, but the property owner to the north of this property where the Beaufort Hotel was, and now where the 3 homes are being constructed is.
Beaufort Inn.
Beaufort
Not
Inn.
not the hotel,
Yes,
yeah.
not the hotel. Boy,
I was waiting for him to take a
will I live to
breath.
see the sun come up? They are, already have put in a bulkhead across the, I'll call it the face of their property, and have approached myself, and I was trying to digest that on extending the wall, I guess, parallel to the town's property and then across the front of our property, and cost participating in the installation of that bulkhead. So haven't even gotten to the point yet to bring that forward, but in the meantime, I thought it was in the best interest to pick up on the point that Rachel's already mentioned, that of the living shoreline. So I made inquiries with Coastal Federation on that, and Commissioner Spiegler can help me out here if need be, but make a long story short, if you go into the elevation of the property is considerable in relationship to the water surface. So in order to do the living shoreline, you would have to grade considerable amount of the property back to establish that. The Coastal Federation at this juncture says probably the best measures to be taken along the shoreline is to leave the riprap in place, with the living shoreline being the second choice and the bulkhead being the third. But that's preliminary, still needs some look-see, but that's a long way of saying that the riprap is probably the best thing right now.
Anything you'd like to add,
I
Commissioner?
think, no, Charlie, I think you said that well. Essentially, because this is a unique property and the elevation is already so high,
Right.
that the riprap is actually, it's right up on the shore, and it seems to be doing a great job protecting the shoreline, and it, at this point, doesn't make sense to go in and rip out all of that riprap, put it farther out, put a living shoreline in, grade it, when what we have right now seems to be working well to protect the shoreline. And the bulkhead is the last choice because it would likely cause more erosion of the property, and that's not what we want to see for the town. So it actually, the best option of leaving it the way it is also the best cost option for the town as well, I think. So I think that's a good thing. If further studies are needed, the Coastal Federation said, another engineer could come out, but that would be their recommendation at this time.
That kind of helps the project along if the riprap is what works.
Yes, and that's in alignment with what CAMA representatives shared with Mr. Garner, our planning director, and myself.
I just like to say that our town citizens are always looking and watching, and one day happened to be walking along there, so when they see a commissioner, they will ask questions. And unfortunately, sometimes I can say, yes, I know, and sometimes I can say, I don't know, but I'll find you an answer. So I was not trying to step on nobody's toes here tonight. Citizens see me and they ask questions.
That sounds like my other job as PIO.
That was a good question. Commissioner Piccolo, did you have something to add?
No, when we had talked about being cost prohibitive to leave the riprap in place and not do the living shoreline, I was also thinking about the dock as well and wondering, like, cost-wise, obviously, putting a floating dock or something like that versus a fixed deck, and what kind of money we have towards this project.
So funding, we currently have, let me make sure I get the right name on the account. The existing Park Improvements Project Fund, which is not in the general fund, it's a separate fund that was from a donation, then also from fees collected, recreation fees from new developments. There is approximately, last I looked, it was I want to say it was 530,000 in that account. And then we also,
I'm sorry, how much did you say, Rachel?
it's roughly around 500. It's more than 500,000. I can get you the exact number. I know the last time I looked was a couple weeks ago, and we've had some additions to it since. So then also, staff would like to, our Public Works Department, we've been holding them off for about a year now. They would like to go in and get started removing a lot of the concrete that's already there. We do believe that phase one can mostly be done in-house. So the bulk of the expense is going to come from phase two, which is the observation deck area in the shoreline. And that is what we intend to apply for the phase of this park for the CAMA grant. And if we cannot figure out the shoreline, the right section there by the next week, we'll find another grant. There's other options out there as well.
Any further comments or questions?
I have a comment about the kayaks, and I am a huge fan of water access, but I'm gonna hit the flip side of Sarah's coin on this one. That channel is one of the narrower spots, and the current is slightly higher right there, and there's not a chance to like get in your kayak and get situated before you're out in the middle of everything and getting ripped out with the current. I think education is worthwhile, but I also think that some people are just gonna try it because they don't know any better, and if they're not in a medium to an advanced kayaker, they're gonna regret they did it. I know there's a kayak company at Nasty Harbor, but at least people can kind of get in the kayak there at Nasty Harbor and get out of the harbor and get their bearings before they get out with other boats. I'm also concerned about a bunch of traffic being in that area. I know there's a lot of traffic on Taylor's Creek, but it's much wider and people can be avoided. I do know the Gordon Street dock, you are putting yourself right out there and you don't have much space to get your bearings, but at least you have a little bit more space to compete with other boats and to get yourself in a safe spot. So I do have concerns about that spot, although I still want to see us expand water access for kayaks, but I do have that concern.
Okay.
Is it okay if I follow up with that?
Yes, please, sir.
Yes, Commissioner Gillikin, I hear your concerns, and I am a very experienced kayaker. Do you think, so I think what I really want to see is, if you live in that neighborhood and you want to walk your kayak or you want to walk your paddleboard down to the water, I feel like you should have a place to enter the water, regardless if you own an expensive house on the water or not. Because if you look at the docks to the right and the left of that house, they've got kayaks on their docks. They go kayaking from there all the time. And, I don't actually live down in that neighborhood, but if I did, I would want a spot where I could carry my kayak down to the water and put it in the water, regardless of if I was right on the water or not. And I think, even maybe a novice kayaker, that would not be the best spot for them, but we do, I think that water access is so important that we don't have to necessarily tout it as a spot, this is you should go kayaking at, but if there's a floating dock, that would give people who live in the neighborhood the opportunity to use that spot if they want and to choose knowing their experience level. So it wouldn't be that we're saying, okay, this is the, kayak launch spot in Beaufort, like how we use the Gordon Street and market it as, okay, this is where we're having most of our paddlers go in. But I just, I think that is one of the great things about Beaufort, and it was one of the things I loved when I moved here, that I could walk my kayak down to the water. And I have a lot of great neighbors who let me use their, private access to do that. And I think the more that we have that available for our community, it just makes us a more inclusive community. I hear both sides. I just want to make sure, that we're allowing people who live down there to access the water as well.
So you think Broad Street is too far for them to go?
I think
Block
the
over.
more water access for our small paddlers, the better.
I guess I also have a concern about the floating dock maintenance, because on a northeaster, that wind comes whipping down that channel, and I'm a little bit concerned about potential for damage. I mean, I can agree to go with the floating dock, but I definitely have concerns. And do we need to decide on the floating dock tonight?
That's one of my other questions.
Well, the recommendation from Parks and Rec and staff, I actually have it in your packet from Public Safety, is against the floating dock, and to go with an observation dock. And also, from the public, it was 28 to 18, 28 in favor of just an observation deck, and 18 that wanted the floating dock. So that would be, the recommendation as is without the floating dock. So that would be up to you all if you wanted to change that. And I do have on the screen some of the concerns that were brought up from Public Safety, which are including the fact that that is a heavily used area from commercial traffic in the major channel there. And swift currents would add to the challenges of water rescue in that area as well. But those are just some of the feedback that came internally. And all of this information was prepared for Parks and Rec and went into their consideration for the recommendation before you.
Thank you.
I know that I've rode through there with the Beaufort oars, and it can get really dicey, especially with getting close to the pilings there. So I'm really concerned about having that available for the public to launch through there. Not that some people aren't going to be experienced kayakers, but you are going to have some people who may be staying in downtown at the hotel or Airbnbs and so forth and think they can, have no problems with it. I would really be concerned. We do have public launches even on Cedar Street, just right around the way. And one of the most safest way to launch is from Sandy Beach. So whether it be Gordon, whether it be Cedar, there are other options. And then hopefully, like I said, this West Beaufort Road park that the town hopefully would be putting money towards will be a much easier way to launch too, and will just provide fantastic access and even expand access for our kayakers to get into Gallant's Channel. So.
There are currently 5 existing kayak launch locations, 4 operated by the town and 1 by the county. And then the additional ones that you've discussed are definitely ones that Parks and Recreation wants to recommend as a part of this. If we don't do a kayak launch there, let's go ahead and move forward with some of the other locations because it is a desire.
One quick question. This will be a town asset.
Yes.
So one thing you might want to check on is to see whether the insurance people have any opinions on this also, from a risk standpoint.
I believe they do.
Don't sound good, huh? All right, so you've got 3 requests that you want the board to tackle. Well, let's tackle the first one, and that's the topic in which we've been talking about currently, is the approval of the Ann Street Design Concept Map that's been presented. This is going to be with the observation dock. Is there any suggested updates from the board, or do you want to approve the concept as presented?
I move on the first subject that we move it as presented.
Okay.
Is it removed as presented or removed with the additional recommendations that are listed in the page above?
And just move as,
It says with suggested updates.
Okay, so it does include that bulleted list with the benches and the
Yes.
dark sky. Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
And then if you wanted to suggest any additional
Yes,
ones,
if you
that would
wanted
be
to.
too.
Okay.
All righty. So we have a motion on the floor. Any further questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed have the same right? Okay. So now we're going to tackle the second one. So you need to have approval for the staff to apply for a grant, like that's going to be a no. Let's see, shall we? Yeah, approval for the staff to apply for grants for the completion of Ann Street Park. So what is the pleasure of the board on that?
Please do.
Okay. Got a motion to approve the,
are you making a motion there?
Making a motion to
Okay.
apply for grants for the
Ann Street Park?
for the park.
okay, thank you very much. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed have the same right? Thank you. Now, this one is the approval for the staff to develop park projects at the Moore Street, West Beaufort Road, and potentially at additional town-owned street ends such as Fulford Street. So is this one not really,
So
it's just giving you permission to explore those and come back?
yes, and I should correct that to say staff and the Parks and Rec Advisory Board to move
Okay.
forward with those projects, and they are outlined in the comprehensive plan.
All righty.
I make a motion that we allow for staff to go out and
Staff
explore,
and Park and Rec?
Park and Rec,
Okay,
to explore.
thank you. So we got a motion on the floor. Any further questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. Very good. I'm excited.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Rachel.
And thank you to the members of the Park and Rec for attending. We appreciate your time and all the hard work that you are doing. So now we're going to move on to the Beaufort Waterfront Operations and Finance Committee update. Commissioner Spiegler, I'll turn that over to you.
All right, thank you, Mayor Harker. So we just have a few quick updates for the BWOF committee, and the first one is that we are continuing on our legislative request for $12 million for the upgrades and repairs to our Beaufort Town docks. And just to give you all a quick update, we have a bill entered into the North Carolina Senate that was by Senator Sanderson, so we are very grateful for him for entering that bill for us. On the House side, we do have Representative Cairns, and she is working on a direct request to leadership, so it's appropriate to do it either way, but we are working to get the request into both the House and the Senate. And from what we understand, the Senate budget is supposed to come out this week. We have heard from multiple sources that first budget is going to be very bare bones, so it would not be unexpected for our bill to not appear right away, but that it would come later with requests of that nature. So that's all good news. We have members of our BWOF committee that are making direct contact with members in leadership. We've gotten some very positive responses, so we're doing everything we can at this time, and we're going to hope for some good news coming up. So that is that update. At our last BWOF meeting, we did set our meeting schedule for the remainder of the year, so I believe that you can go online now and look at our BWOF meeting schedule through the end of December. One of the items that we are currently working through is reviewing applications for a marina management company to come and manage the town docks starting January 1st of 2026. And before that decision is made, we do have a public outreach event. It is tomorrow, so we hope to see as many people as possible. It's called the Beaufort Community Conversations about the Waterfront Project, and it's tomorrow afternoon from 4:30 to 6:30 at John Newton Park on the waterfront. We will have members of our BWOF committee in attendance and town staff. You can ask questions and learn about what the Waterfront Committee has been working on since last summer. Ask questions about the marina management companies that have that we're looking at to run the waterfront starting January 1st. You can learn about the fuel farm. You can learn about the new Beaufort Community Foundation that's supporting the town docks and the parks. There's the, thank you, Elizabeth. There was the notification. So it's going to be very informal, and we hope that as many people as possible from the community can come join us. We really want the input from the community at this juncture as we're moving forward. And if it rains tomorrow, we don't have any tents, so we will have a makeup rain date on Wednesday. But I think so far it looks like there's going to be good weather. That is all I have. Commissioner Gilkin, do you want to add anything?
Just something real small, and thanks for that
Yep.
great summary. Really exciting work that we're doing. We're really pressing forward aggressively, so I'm really proud of what we're doing. For those of you who like to read bills that drop from the General Assembly, it's not very long, but if you want to read the bill that was dropped for funding the waterfront that Commissioner Spiegler described, it's Senate Bill 498. So for a little bedtime reading, if you want to do that, it's 498.
And with that, I'll take any questions from the commissioners if you have questions.
Okay, thank you. Great report. Commissioner Oliver, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cooper?
None?
Thank you. Commissioner Piccolo?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. I can't brag on the work enough that the Beowulf Committee has done in the short period of time in which they were assembled back in last year. It's a great team of individuals that are highly motivated, highly skilled, and great leadership from Commissioner Spiegler and Commissioner Gilligan. Thank you for taking on that charge. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Mayor
that.
Harker.
And I don't know about you, but I have put Bill 498 on loop. I'm almost going to make it my screen page. It's wonderful to be able to see us get that far. I'm not necessarily throwing in the towel by saying this, but I really am hopeful, and there was a lot of work that was put in to get that far. So I don't take it lightly, so I look at it all the time. And it's just a small, simple paragraph, but if I were you, just to take a look at what this committee was able to achieve, it would be worth the read. So thank you very much. Now, let's see. Now we're going to move on to public comments. Anybody signed up? Nobody has anything to say. All right. So now we're going to move on to new business as a presentation of the grant application for the Resilient Coastal Community Program, Phase 3, Professional Park Area Stormwater Improvements. And Charlie, who do we have for that?
Michelle Leitner, our town planner.
Oh, Michelle.
Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight I'm going to discuss the Resilient Coastal Communities Program, RCCP, the Professional Park Stormwater Study and its alternatives for improvements in that area, and the potential for applying for an RCCP grant to design one of the alternatives. Beaufort's no stranger to the Division of Coastal Management's RCCP. We've proudly completed or are underway with several components of this program. The program provides 4 phases of funding. Each phase or equivalent work unlocks funding for the next phase. So Beaufort completed phases 1 and 2 in the creation of our Resilient Beaufort Plan in 2022. This plan provides the community engagement and risk and vulnerability assessment, as well as the planning, project selection, and prioritization. And this results in a list of projects to increase resiliency throughout town. Phase 3 is usually to design a structural project prior to implementation, but can also be used to develop relevant ordinances and other guiding documents. We know this because we were awarded $100,000 last year for Phase 3 grant to work towards resilience ordinances in our new Unified Development Ordinance. We're applying for 2 grants this year, a Phase 3 for engineering and design and a Phase 4 for implementation, and Sam's going to discuss that one in a little bit. The project that staff has identified for funding requests for Phase 3 is stormwater improvements in the Meeting Street Professional Park Drive area. This study was completed in January 2025 and proposed several design alternatives to achieve reductions in stormwater flooding in that area. Meeting Street, which is part of the Professional Park Drive area study, is identified in several plans as dire need for flooding relief. This map shows a general idea of where each of the proposed 3 alternatives would be, and we can come back and reference this map, but there's 3 alternatives. Here, I've got a little bit bigger. Alternative 1, neighborhood and outfall ditch improvements. Alternative 2, permeable pavers and internal-external ditch improvements. Alternative 3, roadways and internal ditch improvements. And I believe that you guys went through this document with Sam a number of months ago, so this is probably not unfamiliar to you, but I'm bringing it back forward because we need to, staff needs direction as to which alternative to request grant funding to design. So we've got the engineer's opinion of probable cost for each of these projects, and then the estimate for engineering cost is usually 15% of that. So we've estimated that out here. I've also provided alternatives 1 and 3 together because that is a possibility of project of doing those 2 alternatives together to kind of beef that up. And then the additional resiliency recommendation is that generator with automatic transfer switch. Is that right? Same. Oh, here, come with me. Sorry.
Come, Sam.
I've got Sam as my technical backup for anything engineering related.
Hey, good evening, Board. So yes, the additional resiliency alternative would just be for basically a beefed up pump station with automatic controls, dual pumps, and a generator for added capabilities. It's currently manually operated. The town does not own it, and upgrading it would not improve the flooding. It would just improve the functionality of the pump station itself. So that's why it's kind of an add-on, because, you know.
So as we're discussing these things, if you have any technical questions, Sam is here. I'm putting forward the grant application, documentation and everything. I do want to point out that, you know, requesting for grant funding for design does not lock the town in to complete a project. It just means that we want to ask for funding to have the project designed. So a decision tonight does not, you know, fully encumber the town. So I just want to kind of put that out there. Is there any thoughts at this point from the board as to which alternatives that we want to look at for grant funding under Phase 3 RCCP?
Well, let's find out. Commissioner Spiegler?
Thank you, Michelle. Can you remind us, because I know it's been a little while since we've looked at the report, was alternative 3, you can go back to that last slide.
Which slide?
Can you put back the price? Yeah, that one.
This one?
Yes.
Yeah, the alternative 3, road raise and internal ditch improvements, was that the one that WK Dixon recommended as the one most likely to help with the flooding?
Yeah, I believe so.
Answer that for you. Yes, alternative 3 was the recommended alternative from the design engineers that did the study, due to it being the least costly option, as well as requiring the least amount of easements, and since we already own the street.
So are you asking for direction for just this RCCP grant or other grants as well?
Just this grant.
Okay. And I should know this, but can you remind me, what is don't they have a cap for how much you can apply for?
Yes, the funding cap is generally $750,000.
Okay.
So all of these options would be within that realm.
I mean, my inclination would be to go with alternative 3 because that's what WK Dixon recommended, unless you all think it would be worthwhile to add on one of the other ones as well for this. I think it's how strong of a application can you also make for each one. I would definitely go with alternative 3, but then maybe hear your feedback about the other ones.
Comment on that a little bit. One issue that definitely came up in the public meetings was the need for maintenance, ongoing maintenance. And I will say alternative 1 would include maintenance on all the, well, not all the ditches, but some of the main ditches that are referenced in the project and drain the neighborhood. So I'll just mention that no matter what alternative we go with, there's going to be a need for ongoing maintenance. This kind of goes beyond this grant and all that, but just wanted to mention that. And it's currently the town has been doing that periodically, but there's no formal agreement in place for the town to continue to do ongoing maintenance. Just something we may want to look into in the future. And it's figuring out, you know, the HOA's responsibility, DOT's responsibility, other property owners' responsibilities, as we try to tackle the maintenance issue. But we do believe that alternative 3 would kind of solve the core problem of the study, which was the Meeting Street flooding. So.
That would be my inclination for this grant. Willing to hear others' opinions as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Oliver?
I think the thing that is the most troubling of this, other than the fact that it occurred at all, is somehow figuring out or understanding the progress of the effective homeowners collaboration and their commitment, financial commitment, and what the various options are around that. I'm absolutely fine in seeking grants, but I don't get the sense that we're getting a whole lot of commitment out of those who are most affected. And I don't know exactly how, Counselor, we do that. Whether we have a special taxation zone. I mean, I have a vacuum in my brain for how we work that. But somehow we've got to figure out a fair way for those most affected to participate, collaborate, and agree. And I don't, I'm all for the grant requests, the effort, what staff is doing, the study we've done thus far. But eventually, we've got to turn the page and figure out how we're going to handle the other part of the puzzle. Have you got any ideas on that?
As in paying for the ultimate work?
Well, after grants and everything else, but I mean, I don't think these are going to, I don't think these are going to be 100% grants, are they? All these?
An RCCP grant is a no-match grant.
Is or is not?
matching
Is.
on this.
No match.
No match.
No match.
So that
And
is
for-
100%
so-
grant.
So each of these grants that you have on those pages, including the work itself, is no match?
The RCCP, the Phase 3 would be no match for that
I'm
design.
talking about the work. You're talking about the engineering study, the 15%. I'm talking about the project itself.
We haven't asked for the project itself yet, but the amount that it would cost to do the project exceeds the RCCP grant funding possibility.
So eventually, somebody's got to come up with some money.
Unless we leverage multiple grants at one time, which is possible.
I just think we need to I think we need to think this all the way through to the end. I'm in favor of the grants, I'm in favor of the goal, but we've got to get neighborhood agreement and figure out how we do this.
Other than the town, of course, paying for any delta out of the town general funds, there is a statutory mechanism called a special assessment for various infrastructure utilities. It's very well scripted in the statute. It involves affirmative consent or vote by the impacted property owners. And depending on the nature of the project, it's a majority concept. It's not a unanimous concept. Then the town would pay for the improvements or the delta and then bill the benefited property owners through the property tax system over 5 years, I believe, is the time horizon. And that's the best funding mechanism if you want the individual property owners who are benefited to participate for the funding to come from that crowd. Some of the board may recall a couple of years ago, we had a pretty thorough analysis of the homeowners associations out there. And I believe the conclusion was one was fairly active and might be able to, I say participate, I don't mean necessarily financial, but insofar as necessary easements, rights of way, things like that, while the other was not very functional and in fact may be voluntary at some level when it comes to the property owners.
But equally affected.
Yes, sir. And I feel like the situation I'll have to review, but the pump that we're talking about is on one property owners association's property, but it actually pumps for the other association. So, it was a pretty convoluted mess, but to engage the property owners, the best mechanism would be through the homeowners associations because they speak for the property owners. You still may have to get individual consents or votes, but to sit down and have the global conversation that I think you're contemplating, it would best be had with the property owners associations at this point.
I just, again, I'm for the piecemeal approach and everything we've done. I have no criticism and nothing but support. But eventually, we gotta get the elephant in the room wrestled to the ground. And that somehow is to come up with a plan and get not only the collaboration, but the agreement of those affected.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Well, in lieu of that approach, what alternative do you want to guide the staff in applying for?
I commend the staff for making it. I agree, looking at the numbers. I count that additional, we don't have a number on it, Michelle, but the additional resiliency recommendations, the whole pump situation, not only is it the smallest number, but I think it's also the most immediate and effective part of the puzzle. So I would look at it not under 4 alternatives, I'd look under 5, because the pump thing, I think, if I were looking at it myself, I'd at least think that pump situation is probably one of the higher priorities. And again, less money.
Well, the pump alternative is not a priority because it does not help with the flooding. It's just kind of an add-on.
Right.
And it's not ours, so.
But it needs to be done, and it's got to be paid for.
So when they're saying number 3 is going to give you the highest amount of impact, for flooding?
Yes,
But you want to-
it gives you most impact per dollar,
Okay.
except I think I'd include the pumps with it. So I think if I were looking at it, I'd be out there looking for $2.5 million,
So it would be number 3 plus additional?
well, plus the pumps.
Plus
I think the pumps are, and if I'm understanding, Sam, the pumps are needed.
Oh, I agree that a better pump station out there would really help.
So is that a yes?
That is a yes. If we could do that, then
My number's $2.5
yes.
million is the priorities.
Okay. But we're only applying for how much?
750. So we could add that in there. I mean, the cap is 750. So if we just did the design for that one, we could do, well, even if we did,
Be 360 and some change for the design. Yes, we'd be within our funding cap for that grant.
Okay. Fantastic.
And maybe you could beat up the engineers a little bit.
Okay.
All right.
Commissioner Cooper go, then I'll get to you. Okay, Commissioner Cooper, are you?
Ooh, to throw a wrench in all of that. I'm not sure if the Meeting Street people have a homeowners association.
That's why I've been careful to use the word affected homeowners.
But I do know
Because I agree with you, it's gonna take more than the homeowner, more than the existing homeowners association. I agree with you, it's gonna take the whole community.
Yeah, and the other side that has.
Apparently it doesn't take 100% vote, it
yeah.
takes a popular vote.
The other side that has the homeowners association, which also owns that pump
Right.
out there. So we will be actually giving them, if we were to do this, giving them a pump. Sam?
of course, it hasn't been completely worked out yet, but I think it would probably be something to that effect that we would, if we could get grants for it, we could pay for it, install it, and then I don't know who would end up taking care of it and maintaining it. That hasn't been worked out yet. But currently, the HOA maintains and owns the current pump system. So,
And occasionally, sometimes they just don't make the mark or forgets that we got heavy rain coming, and then they forget to maybe drain it down some the day before, and that's the issue. None of these alternatives, though, is going to resolve the flooding on Meeting Street, which is the big elephant in the room, is the flooding that take place on Meeting Street, where at some portion before the intersection, one of the intersections, where it stay flooded and people are actually trapped within their homes. So none of the alternative is going to solve that.
Well, alternative 3 is looking like the best option right now. It would at least get Meeting Street drivable during a storm, so that there may still be some water in there, but it's going to be, 6 inches or less,
6 inches less? Okay. Now, the only thing in terms of trying to get them, Commissioner Oliver, in terms of paying for that is that they didn't ask for it. I mean, they was under the pressure when they moved within that neighborhood that developer was doing all that he should have been doing, and he didn't. He did not put proper drainage in that area, but now we're gonna ask them to pay for something that they really had no, what's the word I'm looking for, involvement in. I mean, when they moved on a good faith. And now we're gonna be asking them to pay some more,
That's a
to
tough,
keep the roads dry?
that, as you mentioned, that's a tough discussion to have. But it's probably also tougher to have that discussion with people who live elsewhere and who would want to see some balance and involvement by those affected. So it's a very difficult,
Well, we would have to,
slippery
yeah.
slope.
We would have to bring everybody to the table, and whether or not that homeowner association or the society is gonna be willing to even entertain that conversation when their land is perfectly dry. You ask them to be good neighbors, and that might not.
That might be, you may well be correct. It's a tough one.
It is. I do know in talking to the consultant that, yes, having that area cleared by the state or by us, which we do occasionally, is something, again, some people that we're going to have to bring to the table so that would alleviate some of the help with some of the flooding that take place over in that area. Because not only does it affect the flooding, affect not only the roadway itself, but it also affects the people's yard. You can walk back on those days that it's flooded, their backyard is flooded as well. So we had to bring a lot of people to the table. But I would preferably go with the consultant number 3, but I know that's not the total end result.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gilligan?
My question would be will RCCB pay for a pump on private land? Have y'all talked with them about that?
We haven't. We're just looking at the engineering and design at this point. We didn't want to presume what the board was going to go with.
Right.
And we knew that there's easement difficulties with any of these options that are going to need to be ironed out prior to installation. So we were just tackling this one right now, knowing that this is not the last conversation we're going to have on this, and be able to get everybody to the table, get a better idea of what we're looking at legally as far as maintenance and access easements for any of these ditches. And then it sounds like we're getting some consensus on alternative 3, which, as Sam noted, we've got the street already. So we've got that right of way, so we'd be working within, town property.
Yeah, I'm definitely on board for 3, and would be curious about the pump and what some of the RCCP staff thought about that. Maybe it's possible, maybe they've done it with other projects, but definitely investigate that ahead of time. And I'm wondering, I know this is just for design and engineering, but I'm wondering if you approach them and ask about broadening the scoping activities to try and get at, on the front end, how we're going to work with various stakeholders on the maintenance of this thing at the end. And I know we're just in design and engineering, but maybe bringing that up and trying to integrate a little bit of funds into the beginning part of this to begin that conversation. Don't know exactly how that would look, but it'd be interesting to see if they would let us include some funding for that in the scoping activities. And then to your points, Commissioners Oliver and Cooper, who's going to pay? I mean, we did approve the plan, the engineer plans that were executed by the developer. We did approve that, and then we did not take any legal action during the time when before the statute of limitations occurred. So I feel like there is some responsibility on the town's part to at least initially try to get funding for some of this, but in terms of the maintenance, Commissioner Oliver, in the future, I totally think we need to start having conversations about that, but I think we need to put as much energy as we can into getting funds to start to address these issues up front, because we could have done better on the front end, quite honestly. But we are where we are, but I totally get your point, Commissioner Oliver.
All right,
And
Commissioner
I'd
Pickering.
agree with Commissioner Gillikin. I feel like the town has have some responsibility to this because of the history, what happened there. But I have there's so many unanswered questions with who's going to maintain the pump? Can we work on private land? Is there opportunity for there to be voluntary taxation? Does that require 75% of the HOA, of both HOAs, of just one HOA? Who has to, how do we even, get that done?
Yeah, the statute is fairly complex on that point. You would have to go in and determine, where the exact improvements are going to be made, the number of owners impacted, and then there's actually a linear footage requirement. So say, for instance, it was a road and one owner had 100 feet of road frontage, and then the next owner had 25 feet. Well, the 100-footer is going to pay more and have more of a vote than the person with 25 people. How that would shake out with a pump, we'd have to look at those things. But it is a majority type of thing with some pretty heavy-duty math I'd have to rely on Sam to help with.
And before we start jumping to the, payment and so forth, do we believe that there may be no fundings available for payment of this? There will be no opportunities to apply for grants that don't need to be matched for a project like this?
I think once we've got the engineering and design for this project, we could apply for RCCP for Phase 4 implementation. So that is a component for the funding of that. The other funding mechanisms or grants that are available, I'm not familiar with or know off the top of my head, but I do know that that would be a possibility to move this ball down the field a little bit. I know, for example, Phase 4 implementation for the next item that we're going to talk about is for a component of the entire project. So we know that sometimes we have to piece together, we call it partnering opportunities, for the different kinds of funding for bigger projects like this. So there is a possibility to defray a lot of the costs through grants or matching different things against each other.
And just a question going back to that slide that had all of the different options.
Yes, sir.
If we did apply for, say, the alternative 1 and 3 and had the design in place for the roadways and internal ditch improvements, but didn't carry out the other component of it, would we still be able to still use those funds, maybe have that in place in case down the road we did want to pursue additional work on that property? Would that be an option, or is that not something that Sam, when that's done with engineering, could you have it as in stages and maybe have a few things built into that?
We would be asking for the specific deliverable. So they would want to see that deliverable before they, start sending reimbursements to close out that grant. And there is a 1-year funding timeline. There's opportunity to extend it a little bit, but they are looking for a specific project, so we wouldn't be able to hold the funds for something later. But we could do, ask for alternative 1 and 3 and shelve those plans for later. Conduct the engineering and design for both of those alternatives and then move forward with only one.
Yeah, that was my thought.
Okay.
Do the engineering part, but then maybe shelve the part that we think is not as as resilient, or maybe not as effective or cost-effective, to maybe a later date if need be. But the grant money is there to do that today. So, the thought.
Okay. So it seems like we still have to come up with a decision on this one. You're looking for an alternative, and it looks like alternative 3 seems to be something not only suggested by the engineers, but the participants that came through. So when I walked through, it seems that those individuals who were truly impacted showed up, and it was great for them to be able to get their impression of the study and what they felt might impact their lives and make it better. Number 3 was high on the list. Am I not correct on that one?
I believe so.
Okay. But we're also having the conversation about the pump, to move forward or to not move forward. There's a lot of concerns about that. Have we looked at whether if we implemented number 3, raising the road, are we under the impression that the current pump would be totally inadequate? That an additional one is absolutely, you want to go to the bathroom?
Sorry, again, no, there's no indication that the current pump is inadequate. It was replaced not too long ago, I want to say within the last 5 years. The pump itself and some of the electrical components were replaced. So it's in good working order. The only, let's say, the only issue is the ongoing control of it. So it's currently manually controlled. If it were upgraded to an automatic control, then we could, or the HOA could set it on some sort of automatic schedule or automatic pump down level. That would require less manual interface. But currently, I don't think the pumps would be necessarily upsized that much with the proposed design, because no matter what size pump you put in there, it really didn't make a difference as far as the flooding was concerned.
So having 2 pumps,
Having
because
2
you'll
pumps,
have one
having
that's
a,
still going. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, they'll turn it on, and so on and so forth. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt that happens.
So Sam, when you say additional pump station improvements,
yes.
what does that specifically mean?
Yeah.
Specifically, it would be installing duplex pumps instead of just the one. It'd be
And
installing
controls.
automatic controls and installing a generator.
Okay.
So 2 pumps, generator, and controls.
And do we know if they're going to want us to put that in there? I mean, we're going to give them a gift. Do we know if they want the gift?
I would imagine they would, but
Huh?
At least the one lady who has
we-
to actuate the controls.
yeah, I remember we talked to the lady that goes out and operates the pump, and I don't remember if she actually said she would be psyched about it or not, but I
Psyched
imagine
is
she
good.
would. I think she had the same questions as y'all did, as far as who would take it if we put in a new one. Who would take it over? Would
And
it
who would
still be
maintain
her?
the pump?
Would it still be hers, or would it be ours? Or
Yeah.
but
Because once we give them that pump, wouldn't they handle the maintenance if something broke down and warranty is on it? They would still be responsible for that?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the thing is, that I don't want to give something and somebody is going to come back to the town and say, you handle this, which is kind of like where we are right now. I mean, we just want to be able to say, if you're going to take this, you need to have responsibility for this. This is a gift, use it. And then who's going to set the automatic timer on that? Are we going to set it so it goes off when we install it? Okay.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's a good point.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, there's a lot of questions up in the air, so. So far, we're going to give you some instructions, I guess, to go with number 3, alternative number 3. Do we need to go on a vote on that one? All right, but the pump is still up in the air.
So can I make a suggestion? So
Yes,
we
ma'am.
could talk about doing 3 and the pump if RCCP says it can be done, and if the HOA agrees, and if we can figure out the whole maintenance thing. But can that be done in, 2 weeks is the deadline
Functionally, it's Thursday because I'm out of town next week.
Oh dear, okay, well, that can't be done. That really can't be done. So it sounds like we need to take the pumps off the table because we can't figure all that out in a few days.
Yeah, you need some time.
So I was thinking if we had a couple weeks, we might be able to check in with RCCP and the HOA, but if we can't, then it sounds like we need to go
And you
with.
don't want to miss the deadline on something that has already been proven that's going to have an impact.
Right, so do we want to, if we're not gonna do the pump, do we want to add in the engineering for 3+1? So we'll have that sitting there waiting for us, or do we just wanna go with 3? That's what I would offer.
Commissioner Spiegler, back to you.
I would say whatever we think fits into the grant priorities the best. I might defer to you all. Do you think it's more likely to get funded? Whatever you think is more likely to get funded. Or you could just ask for everything and put in a couple different, this grant is pretty flexible, but you also still need to look at what they're looking for to fund.
If I could just mention one thing about alternative one is we do already have 30% plans for all the alternatives. So we do already have something to look at. And there already has been issues with alternative one as far as getting property access. So my initial thought would be not to waste $400,000 on the design of that any further. But not to say it would be wasted, because I'm sure the ditch improvements that they have presented would help. It's just be a lot more involved.
Okay, so back
Back
to
to,
3.
back to
Back to
3.
3.
Okay, well, let's put this
I think
puppy
that's
to
a good
bed.
plan. Yeah.
Yes.
As you originally said. All right, so let's make a motion to advise the staff to apply for alternative 3. Okay?
So moved.
No,
All
the
right.
mayor made a motion, so we need it.
I didn't make the motion. I need somebody to make
She
the motion.
she needed somebody to make a motion.
Let's make
I make
it.
a motion for alternative,
He backed us
alternative 3.
All right, we got a motion on the table. Any further questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. Okay, what else?
Thank you, everyone.
Oh, all right. Fantastic.
See you.
All right, so now we're going to move on to pump number 7 replacement and funding resolution. Wasn't that kind of tied into that?
This will be Sam Bell,
Sam?
town engineer.
Okay.
Hey, good evening. So I mentioned the RCCP grant application process. The phase 3 we're going to go for is the Meeting Street design, and then the phase 4, which is for shovel-ready projects, has been identified that we could possibly put some money towards the pump station number 7 replacement. So we're going to make that the top priority for our RCCP application and go for the full amount of $750,000 toward the pump station 7 replacement. So brief, just to back up a little bit on the pump station number 7. It's been identified in many of our plans as the top priority for replacement. We've got some development that's underway that is depending on it. It also serves a very crucial and underserved part of town, and it's also it's very old, and it's on a piece of property in the Carteret County bus garage. So moving it out of their way, basically, and into a safer location will also help with the resilience, being in such a low-lying area. So we recently just got the full design and cost estimates, as well as bid documents and everything for that project. So it's ready to go. And the estimates came in pretty high. We're looking at, we do have some funding already available for it that was set aside from some ARPA funds. So that's in there. That's set aside for the project. It's not encumbered by ARPA, but it is available for the project, and in the amount of about $985,000. And but our estimate came in at just under 3 million, so that leaves about 2 million of funds that we will need to come up with. If we get even if we get the RCCP grant, 750, it still leaves us with quite a chunk. But one of the possible funding opportunities that was identified by the design engineers was the state infrastructure revolving fund. So these applications are also due towards the end of the month, and we could apply for the rest of the amount to cover the project, and that would be in the by way of a low interest loan, basically. So we're asking for a resolution to apply for the additional funding through the Division of Water Infrastructure Clean Water State Revolving Fund in the amount of about 2 million. So if we did get the RCCP grant, that amount would come down. But just in case we don't get it, we want to apply for the full amount of 2 million. So I also prepared a resolution to that effect that we would need to be adopted so that we can apply for that funding. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have
All right,
about
thank you,
that.
Sam. All right, so start with Commissioner Spiegler, please.
Thank you, Sam. So this is the other project we're going to put in 2 grants to the RCCP, one being the one for Professional Park Meeting Street, and then this as a separate application. So we could get both grants, but it's likely in the past that the RCCP usually just funds one. So hopefully we'll get at least one. I think it's great that we're using Pump Station 7 for the RCCP because it was listed as a priority in the Resilient Beaufort Plan. So that when we apply is good for our application as well, because we've shown that the community has prioritized this. So fingers crossed, hopefully it gets funded. I think this is a great opportunity for the town and this grant opportunity. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you. Commissioner Oliver?
I'm in favor of making a grant request for $2 million for this project.
Thank you. Commissioner Cooper?
Same.
Thank you. Commissioner
Thanks,
Gill-
Sam.
Thank you. Commissioner Gillikin?
Yeah, I'll also be in favor, but I was wondering, Sam, on the estimate of 2.9 million, does that reflect like future escalation in the next few years when we're like waiting to get the funding, or is that just up until now?
This was very recent, and with the project being ready to go, I believe we're looking at a timeline that wouldn't necessarily need any escalation.
Okay, any further escalation?
I think it's, yeah.
Great, okay, thank you so much, appreciate it.
Thank you. Commissioner Piccolo?
I'm in favor for asking for the $2 million grant.
Okay, thank you.
That would be a great idea. It seems like the longer we wait, the higher the price it gets, and we're chasing it, and we desperately need that pump number 7 to be replaced.
It's probably made in China.
That was partly what I was getting at.
Well, I think everything is at this point in time. So you've got a resolution that we need to have passed here, unless there's any further questions for Sam.
I make a motion to, there's no number on the resolution number, but to submit the grant request in accordance with page 128 of our handout for
Okay.
$2 million.
All right. Got a motion on the floor. Any further questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
You may not need to go anywhere, because I think you're up deck. Stay right there. So we've got the wastewater allocation request for 215 Randolph Drive.
Rudolph.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to move right into that. So, some of y'all may be familiar with the Deerfield subdivision, some may not. But in essence, we operate a pump station out there. It's a smaller size pump station. It currently serves about 33 properties. The request tonight is for an additional property to hook into our system out there. I've provided some maps to give you an idea of the property in question. The applicants currently own the property. It's an empty lot currently and sits about 3 or 4 properties away from our sewer line, so they would have to extend the sewer line to meet ours, and they're aware of that.
Okay.
They also have to install the required pump station, similar to the other lots that are out there now. So they're asking for, it would be a 3-bedroom home, which comes out to 180 gallons per day, and our current pump station out there is operating well below its design capacity. I don't think capacity at the pump station would be an issue, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about the pump station or the history of that subdivision. It is outside of the town limits. They would not need water service from the town. I believe county water would be available, so we'd have to set up an account with them to be able to bill the sewer. But beyond that, they would be paying out-of-town rates and out-of-town utility development fees. So just requested action to be considered the allocation request for the single-family home within the Deerfield subdivision.
And they are aware of the rate increase, because I don't want anybody to say they're totally surprised by that.
Okay, I'll make sure they're aware.
Okay, please make that. All right, so we'll start with Commissioner Spiegler, see if she has any questions for you. Sam, thank you.
No questions. Thank you, Sam.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Oliver?
Getting after my bed hour, Sam, but as I understand it, there's a potential for a total of 19 additional connection requests.
There wasn't a specific number tied to the original agreement that I could find. There were, when they did the original calculations for the sewer lift station, when I say they, I mean the engineer at the time. He did it based on the 30 existing existing lots out there, as well as he just threw in an arbitrary number of 15 additional for future capacity. And that was all based on, at the time, the 120 gallons per day per bedroom. So back then it was designed for 45 houses. Now, since our rate has been reduced to 60 gallons per day, you could, in effect, say the number of houses that it could serve has doubled. And that's just from a design perspective. From an actual...
But you're talking about capacity. My question is, are there 19 additional lots that could request connection?
There are probably more than that. I only numbered up to 19 on this drawing here.
Well, and in your presentation, you said that, so I'm just trying to understand what, in the long term, if other people follow this lead for this house, what is the potential number of connections?
Potential number, I have not looked at the total number. As you can see on this exhibit, it's only a partial configuration of the neighborhood as a whole. And there are some existing homes on there that I did not include, but it's possible that those homes, septic systems could fail and they could request connection. But I can give you a quick snapshot of current capacity level is 2,000 gallons per day based on average
I'm
numbers.
not worried about, I'm not asking a question about sewer capacity. I'm asking a number of how many more people are gonna ask for a connection as their sewers, as the systems go down and they realize that they can get it despite the fact they have to pay twice the rate.
Yes. It could, I don't have a total number.
Okay, that's the only question I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cooper?
I have anything, Sam? Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gilligan? Nothing for me. Thank you. Commissioner Lo Piccolo?
I had kind of had a similar question with understanding how many lots here above and beyond the original designation by that engineer would be requesting at some point, because these septic systems can fail, will fail, especially when they're in flood-prone zones like this. So, what are we looking at, and how is that going to be affecting the system? The other question I had too was, with the system accepting such a small load right now, is that putting a strain on the town? Like, are things kind of drying up and you guys are having to go out there and flush lines or anything like that?
I haven't been aware of any ongoing maintenance issues out there. I know we had an issue with the vacuum pumps being ineffective during low flow conditions, but as far as I know, with this pump system, I haven't had any problems, any similar problems with the low amount of flow.
And the tie-ins there, and I would imagine there's grinders as well, is that part of the system that those homeowners are paying to help maintain, or is that on the town to maintain?
That's a good question. The individual pump stations out there are owned by the homeowners, so they're responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of their individual pump station.
So do they maintain the lines to the road like 101, or are we maintaining the lines from 101 to this property?
I believe the lines within the right of way would be ours. Yeah.
And on this map here, so just to understand even future connections and so forth, does all of Island Drive have the ability to connect now with the lines in place throughout the entire property, or is it the only specific lots that have it?
Currently, only specific lots have it. It's a little bit light on the screen, but the green lots are all connected to the system. The white lots that say existing home are not connected to the system, but as you can kind of see the line on there. So if it's next to a line, they could hook in easier than somebody is not right next to the line. But most of the ones on this particular exhibit are pretty close. The ones that I numbered are ones that are empty. So that's why I identified those as possible connections, since they are empty. There's also 4 of the existing green homes that are empty, and the blue homes on there are ones that have come on after the original. Those are ones that we've allocated after the fact. So I think we currently have about 7 additional ones that we've allocated since the original.
Is their system a grinder and pump, or is it vacuum, or is it pump? What is it?
They're individual grinder pumps.
Individual grinder pumps, and then then pressure from there to our line, which is gravity thereafter.
It's pressure to our lift station, and then our lift station pumps it again into our force main. So it's kind of a two-step pump system.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is the last application for sewer allocation that's out there from this division? Or is there another one? Because I think there's another one that's out here.
There was one that came through. He kind of pulled back on it once I told him about all the fees.
Okay.
It was the one that's numbered 18. He was looking at connecting in at one point. But yeah, there's no number that I could find that was tied to the agreement, only an arbitrary 15 extra ones that were picked, but, you know, could have
You finished?
19 more want to hook up, could have, you know, 80 more that want to hook up.
Yeah,
Don't
my
know about
concern is just
80.
making sure that we have the allocation for
Who's running
the
this meeting?
30 allocated lots. And that we're not
Oh, yeah.
going above and beyond, but you said we should have enough for at least 60 now. So, correct? That decreased.
The original design was for 45 houses, so we could have up to 90 possible
Two connections.
if you double that. So
Right. And are there more than 90 lots out there?
I don't know the total number since this is only a partial representation of the neighborhood, but
Because really, the plan is really to serve the existing homeowner there.
Yeah,
I
but-
just want to make sure we're not.
that wouldn't cut into any of the existing. The existing ones have already been allocated. So if anybody wanted to, there are 4 empty lots within the existing area. So if any of those wanted to build, they wouldn't have to come in for allocation. They could just hook in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And just for clarity, we're under no obligation to do this.
No.
Just got to figure out what we want to do in life.
All righty, so unless there's any further questions for Sam, the board wishes to go ahead and discuss this particular topic. Is there what is the pleasure of the board when it comes to considering the request for 180 gallons per day of sewer capacity at 215 Randolph Drive?
I'll make a motion that we move forward with the request.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor. Any further questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. All right, so now we're going to move on to, thank you, Sam, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move on to the FY25 Budget Amendment Number 4 and Capital Reserve Fund Amendment Number 21. Oh, I'm sorry, I wrote over that. Let's go back, sorry, Christie, false alarm. Let's go to the appointments of the Historic Preservation Commission. We have 2 HPC appointments that need to be made or considered today. Each of those have a 3-year term. So can I get a motion to open the floor for nominations?
I make a motion that we open the floor to a nomination.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor. Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, so we have 3 applicants. We have Chris Davis, Susan McGee, and Tyler Tennant. Who would like to make a motion out of,
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Chris Davis.
okay, we got one for Chris Davis. Any other nominations?
Tyler Tennant?
Tyler Tennant. Okay. All right, any further? All right, then I have a motion to close the floor for nominations.
So move.
Got a motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. So by acclamation, can we go ahead and approve Chris Davis and Tyler Tennant as our new HPC appointees, and each of them will serve a 3-year term. Congratulations. Now we're going to move on to the FY25 Budget Amendment Number 4 and Capital Reserve Fund Amendment Number 21. What is this? Now it's your turn, Christie, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. Tonight, there are 2 budget amendments for you to consider. Budget Amendment Number 4 has a couple of things that are happening there. Overall, it's requesting a decrease of $306,953 in the general fund, and that number is mostly made up because we applied for and budgeted for the RAISE grant at $518,430 in revenues. And we did not receive that, so we're requesting that you decrease the revenues for that grant that was not received, and then also decrease the corresponding expenditures that were budgeted. There's also a request for an appropriation of $162,000, 162,223 to increase the dredge funds and the property leases and the sale of surplus property. So you'll recall that last year in the budget, we anticipated that Mr. Weeks would only have half of the year of leases for the docks, and then that actually was extended. So it's just an appropriation of the additional 6 months of the lease and the dredge funds. And then the surplus property is from sale of items that were posted on GovDeals, surplus items and sold there. And then under other revenue, $49,254, there was a donation received specifically for Christmas decorations. So we would request that you appropriate that revenue. Then under expenditures, the $56,000 in the fire department, you'll recall that one of the surplus items was the truck that was sold, and so there is a need for some vehicle maintenance and some tires, so that's being requested to be appropriated in that department. And then again, the decrease in the grant match, the increase in waterfront business districts for the Christmas decorations, and then there's just a general adjustment to balance all of that out of $220,000. I would remind you that if any of these funds are not spent in revenues or over expenditures, it'll roll to fund balance at the end of the year. The other items in this amendment are a decrease in the stormwater fund of $294,815. That was for the Lassie grant for professional park, and there's actually a project fund, so we need to decrease the revenue and decrease the expenditures in that fund. And then the capital reserve fund is an amendment to receive the $200,000 that's budgeted in the general fund for future road projects. And I'll be happy to try to answer any questions.
Thank you, Christy, for that overview. Commissioner Spiegler?
Thanks, Christy. No questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Oliver?
Need more tutoring. Sorry, Christie. The only ones I needed better understanding one is the general fund one. The other two I'm fine with. When I see something increased general adjustments, to me that means miscellaneous. And I would like just to ask, is there some way that can be restricted or reserved rather than just being general adjustments? Because I don't see a line item called general adjustments in your budget.
So there is a line item under non-departmental that's just called general adjustments, but absolutely you can restrict that. You can put it to any other line item. It's also, you'll notice that the revenue for the RAISE grant and the expenditures for the grant are not the same, but
Right.
we have to plug the number to make revenues and expenditures.
That's what I called it on my sheet, was a plug. I would be glad to do this. I would just like to reserve it so that it ends up in the year-end rollover. That's my only interest.
Is it something we can discuss during budget session?
Well, this is this
I
year,
mean,
that's
this year,
next
I
year.
mean,
Is your request just for the money?
The 220,233, rather than calling it increase in general adjustments, I'd just like to reserve it for the approval of this board.
Okay, would you like to reserve it for a specific project or function, like in your reserve fund? Or would you like to reserve it as in you would not like it to be spent and you would like it to roll into fund balance?
The latter.
okay.
Is that possible?
Okay, let me think about that for just a second on
Thank
how
you.
to suggest.
That's the only question I had, and the other two, I understand.
All right, so we'll go with further questions while you're thinking of a
I
plan
think I
for
have a
that.
suggestion, but I'll hear
Did you want to do it now before you lose your train of thought, or?
No, I think I have it. Thank you.
Okay, okay, very good. All right, Commissioner Cooper?
I'll go along with my guru over there.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Gilligan?
No questions.
Thank you. Commissioner LoPiccolo?
No further questions.
All righty.
May I suggest that, may I request that you approve the Capital Reserve Fund Budget Amendment number 21, and may I bring Budget Amendment number 4 back to you at your next meeting so that I can adjust all the numbers and have that in as reserve? Because I'm not sure there's a way to pick apart. We need to start fresh.
That's the same problem I had. I'm happy to do that, that's fine. That's the same problem I had. So yes, there's a lot packed into this, and that's why I wanted to drive down on it. It's fine with me.
So you want to table amendment number 4?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now the board is just looking at approving the Capital Reserve Fund number 21. Okay. All right, is that clear? Clear as mud? All right, so we have a motion on the floor for Capital Reserve Fund number 21. And do we need to make a motion to go ahead and table number 4? Okay. Okay.
So we need a motion for,
Yeah, to approve Capital Reserve number
capital.
21 and to table amendment number 4.
I make a motion that we approve Capital Reserve Fund Amendment number 21 and table budget amendment number 4.
Got a motion on the floor. Any further questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. Okay, now we're going to go to manager's report. Thank you, Christie.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Thank you, Mayor. I know that the board received emails over the weekend regarding Bulkhead Channel and the need for dredging there. Just to give you a little update on that, the Army Corps vessel, the dredge vessel, the Murden, is currently on its way to Louisiana to have some overhaul work done. And from what we can gather, it's not going to be available for dredging in our area until probably August. So staff's aware of the dredge vessel, the Manio, which dredges the ferry channels for the state. And that vessel is actually owned by NCDOT. It may be something at a high level to make an inquiry as far as the availability of that vessel for dredging, and even in a bigger picture, maybe a consortium of Carteret County and Craven County needs for dredging, and maybe we could make an overture through NCDOT, because there's many communities here in Carteret County that require dredging on a regular basis as well. Why I've never suggested this before, can't tell you. But, it just seems like if it's okay for a dredge vessel to be located in the Outer Banks area in dredging the ferry channels, then why not us? At our meeting in Wilmington with the Army Corps, at the end of that meeting that the mayor and I attended with some citizens on the pierhead lines on particularly Taylor's Creek, asked the questions of the Corps as far as us doing independent dredging, and the short answer was we would have the ability to use their permits, their environmental assessments, and their spoils area offshore if we did hopper dredge. There may be some interest with someone like Rachel Carson that might want some spoils over there, as they have been many years ago. But just to try to plant some seeds for when you don't have anything else to talk about one day, maybe we can talk about that, or you can. Which brings me to my point of mayor and board, thanks for having me. My last day of keeping the seat warm for Matt is this Thursday. Friday's a holiday, and he'll be here on Monday, and you'll be in great hands. It's been a great 8 months for me. I agreed to come here last July until Thanksgiving or Christmas, and I didn't think Easter, but Easter's great, and glad to have been here, and new relationships, old relationships, having the opportunity to work with each one of you up here at this dais. Your legal counsel is amazing. And as far as, yeah, we've gotten a few things done, but that wasn't me, that's the staff, from the department heads down to every employee here with the town. It's their efforts that get things done for you and for the community. And I just want to thank staff, want to thank the community for having me back, and made some new relationships there as well, and renewed some old ones. But thank y'all for getting this old man off the couch and getting him engaged again. Thank you.
Our pleasure. All righty, any questions for Charlie about the manager's report? Commissioner Spiegler?
No, we're still in manager report. Not,
Yeah, did you have any
I
questions?
don't
for
have any
Charlie?
questions, no.
Okay. And Commissioner Oliver?
No, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Cooper?
I do.
Okay.
On this dredging, I suggest maybe the North Carolina byways and water thing may have some connections, because a lot of the towns, some do their own dredging, so it's possible that Kathleen might be able to steer you in the direction of maybe a private entity doing the dredging for us.
That's a great idea.
'Cause I did notice that one email. I'm a little concerned about that email that we received, so don't like losing revenue. But if you could reach out to Kathleen, you don't have it, I can text her the number.
Okay, thank you.
And just to say, yeah, the 8 months been fabulous. Sorry to see you
Thank
go.
you. Well,
I understand retirement is retirement.
again,
And again, and again, and again. Commissioner Gilligan?
I don't have questions, but just didn't think I would feel like tearing up tonight. But when Charlie started talking, I was like, oh my gosh, no way. He's going to leave us. But thank you so much. I just had a lot of confidence when your name came up, and you're such a known entity and so steady, and knew you would get along with everybody. And you just jumped right in there with the waterfront stuff and really helped us get way ahead. And I know I'm appreciative of you. My neighbors are. Everybody's talking about it. So you really have, you've done us well, and thank you for that.
Thank you. Commissioner Piccolo?
Yeah, I want to reiterate what Commissioner Gilligan said. Charlie, thank you so much for your service, and thank you so much for stepping in and being part of this town. I mean, you really are the fabric of our community. You've been here for so long. So many people knew you, and when we were looking and thinking of, how do we fill this hole, that we've lost a manager, and right away your name came up. That's just such a compliment, and I just hope you know how much you mean to staff around you and the community for doing that. So I appreciate it.
thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
All righty, so now we're going to conclude with the mayor and commissioner comments. Commissioner Spiegler, you have any further comments to make?
I just want to say thank you to everybody who's here and who participated online. We really appreciate all the engagement by our community members. And then, Charlie, you stole my comments. I was gonna say thank you to you, and I just echo everything that's been said. We just are very, very grateful to you, and you stepped right in with no hesitancy. And I want to say thank you for the mentorship that you've provided to me, and especially, like Commissioner Gilligan said, everything you've done for the waterfront project and on our committee. We just very, very much appreciate it. So thank you, and we're glad you're sticking around a little bit longer to help us with that waterfront project, because
Be glad
we're
to.
moving full steam ahead, so just thank you so much. And one more reminder for everyone who's still listening, our community conversations about the waterfront project tomorrow. We just appreciate everybody's engagement and hope to see you there. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Oliver?
A couple quick things. I've been meeting with the county folks about the valuations which have come across Carteret County, which Danny Palmer briefed us at the work session. And there a couple of highlights about those. There were 62,000 parcels that they've attempted to put values on. And this has largely been done by a group of outside consultants. And I want to tell you that I've met with them on a couple issues, and I could not commend more highly their attitude and the way they've approached it, and their willingness to talk and listen to reason, if you would, and to make proper adjustments. The window for that type of work ends May the 2nd. And I really urge everybody to go on the GIS, to do the drop-down box on your property card, and to take a good look at it to make sure that it seems reasonable and not out of line. Because they're standing by, and they literally told me that they're kind of looking to the public to be the auditors of their own statements. And they have been terribly cooperative and responsive. And I just frankly want to give them a plug. But as citizens, especially those of us in Beaufort, we really need to look at those property cards and make sure that they're doing it. One other quick thing, we had on March 10th, we discussed the UDO vision, principles, and guidelines. And I would just like to put on our calendars when are we going to review this document again for our final review. They've made, the consultant has made significant improvements in it. Naturally, being the pain that I am, I do have a couple more questions, but I would like to make sure that we finalize this, because as Commissioner Gillikin says, this is going to be the look-back-to document that can be used in the rest of the UDO process. So I think it's very important that we get broad and complete consensus on this before it goes along too much farther. So I'd ask you to think about that.
Because the UDO committee meets again, correct? I can't remember. Wednesday, that's right.
But they don't take any comment. We're the ones that have to review this.
Right, so then I guess once it goes through that final review, it'll come back to the board. That's what I'm trying to get a sense of
I
when it comes back.
They sent us a red line version. Now, we all
Right.
have that, but I just don't want to miss it because I think it's important. Thank you.
So after this meeting, you'll be prepared to come to the board? In May. Okay, very good. Very good. Don't lose that calendar. Commissioner Cooper?
Yeah, I just want to echo that the county really is looking for, in terms of evaluation, your property stuff. So, if you, like Commissioner Oliver said, go to that GI and just take a look, and if you're not happy with it, they will work with you. I've had a couple other residents making inquiries, and I've had no negative feedback in terms of saying, oh, that wouldn't help me. So if you have it, use it. Happy Easter to all those that's out in the audience, and to those that are on Facebook. And for this holiday, just stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gilligan?
I want to add some more good funding news or funding submission news from the reserve and the state. We are looking at trying to get funds for one of the priority projects that's outlined in the Resilient Beaufort Plan, which is the Bird Shoal project. So dune stabilization and stabilization of the embayment area on the very west end. We have not gotten funding for it twice, but we're going to keep trying, and we will. So we're putting in a $2.7 million application. I'm going to submit that on Wednesday to NOAA, but we realize the situation that NOAA's in right now. So we're also going to duplicate that request to National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, which may be a better opportunity. And then we will just pull the other one if we have to. We're also working with researchers at NC State on getting a grant to understand how we can beneficially use dredge spoil materials, which links to our other conversation we just had, and possibly trying to help our marshes keep up with water level rise over time. So going ahead and doing some of the scoping activities on the reserve to understand what marshes could accommodate sediment and how much, and what would be the best way to do it. So we're trying to link up with the Corps right now to make sure that they are involved kind of as a user of the outcomes of that project. And of course, we'll be reaching out to the town about that, but just kind of reinforcing what the town is doing through all of their planning efforts. The reserve has been involved in some of that. And like I said, some of those projects are priorities as well. So it's just really motivating and inspiring to see all that we're applying for and all that we've gotten already. So I think we're in a good position.
Good, that's good to hear. Commissioner LaPiccolo?
Just switching gears, I wanted to give accolades to East Carteret High School Theater Group for the performance of Shrek this past week. It was truly a community event, and I guess I keep kind of stressing these community events in town, so if you've never been to it or haven't seen it, keep an eye out for it every year. But the amount of effort that went into this performance, whether it be community members working with the students, building sets, building props and designs, choreography, it was truly an amazing presentation that they put on. So if you ever get a chance to do it, it was fun to see, fun to watch, some amazing voices, some our younger community members putting all their energy and time into it. So give it a shot next year if you missed it this year. So.
I heard great things about it, and saw few little snippets of proud parents posting, and the kids have amazing voices. I mean, I carry a tune in a bucket, and at this age, I was just totally impressed.
Miss Madison Teal.
Yeah,
really knocked
that
it
was
out of the
one
park,
of them.
so.
She was just knocking it out the park, so that was really, really good. Yeah,
And Isaac Moss as well.
Okay.
A little shout out to.
all right, very good. All right, so before we adjourn to go into closed session, thank you for keeping the calendar up. Beaufort is coming alive. It's summertime and our springtime, or going into summertime, so we're going to be getting very, very active. So I encourage each and every one of you to go to the town's website to take a look at the activities that are posted. We have the farmers market. It's going to be on every Saturday from 9 to 1. You've got Beaufort Community Conversations, which is going to be tomorrow. You've been reminded of that. Chat with the Chief, April the 17th. Coffee with the Cop, April the 19th. We've got the Crystal Coast Cancer Rehab 1 mile and 5K run. That's April the 19th. And then we also have a cleanup day because it's going to be Earth Day combined with Arbor Day on April the 26th. So please, go to the link if you need to go ahead and sign up. All hands are needed on deck. We keep a pretty clean town, but there's always room for improvement. So being able to pick up that litter and making sure that it does not get into our waterway comes to our goal of trying to become a good, clean water community. So also today, I had the opportunity to present an appreciation proclamation for Line Workers Day. This was presented to the outstanding crew at the Duke Energy Morehead City Operations Center, which I've had an opportunity to tour. So these are the men and women that are responsible for making sure that when you cut the switch on, is that what you said?
Love it, yeah, I flip that switch.
You flip that switch and lights happen. But they put a lot of their personal time and energy and sacrifice in making sure that we stay connected to energy and making sure that we have those vital resources. So it was really an honor to be out there to the facility and to give they gave me a nice little tour. They are never at their desk because they're always out and about making things happen for us. So I appreciate all that they do. And on behalf of the town, I presented them with a proclamation. Also want to wish Commissioner Gilligan a belated happy birthday. Hit it, Melvin.
Happy birthday.
I say that because he does not like to sing.
Got that right?
And I want to congratulate all those who have been appointed to the HPC committee. That's a very strong committee, does a lot of good work in our town. I want to thank you for taking the opportunity to putting the application in and your willingness to serve. And I don't know how many times I could say goodbye to Charlie, but right now I think I'm racking up number 10. So that means we just don't need to say goodbye, just need to stick around in some capacity.
Yes.
That's exactly right. So as it has been mentioned, he has been very instrumental in being that liaison with the Beowulf Committee. And I've had conversations with our incoming town manager as well as with Charlie about him sticking around and serving in that role. So you may be getting off the settee. Maybe you don't have to go back to the couch,
Okay,
but, get
okay.
out of the recliner. But your services will definitely, and did I hear you say volunteer?
I did say
Oh,
volunteer.
that's outstanding.
Yeah,
And you hear, everybody heard that, right? When the mic is hot,
Be
he
happy to
volunteered.
volunteer.
Yeah, it'd be nice, very good. But also, too, I'd just like to thank all the commissioners, our town staff, and all the citizens that continue to dedicate your time and energy to making Beaufort a strong, welcoming, and resilient town. So with that being said, can I get a motion to go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318, 11A and 3?
So move.
Got a motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, quick bathroom break and come back.